The FSU family has lost one of its own. We will pay tribute to a quarterback who started the very first BCS championship game. So much going on elsewhere to talk about here in 2024. We welcome you into the Voice of College Football, our Florida State show that we deliver each and every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks to Chris Frazier, Spear Addicts, James Coleman, Den Media Group. They should be by here in just a few minutes. And of course, George from the Renegade Report. Get on over there. Check out George on the Renegade Report. And we'll get to the football in just a second. But because of the weightiness of the news, this obviously the most important. Former Florida State quarterback Marcus Outzen died on Tuesday at the age of 46. He was diagnosed with a rare immune deficiency disorder in 2023, suffered from commonly referred to as HLH disorder that impacted his white blood cell count and did damage to his organs. Just a horrific thing to read about and understand what he had suffered through here in the last couple of years. So he was, of course, you don't necessarily need to be a Florida State football fan, because I'm not. And I remember Marcus Outzen. Again, he stepped in late in the season in 1998, and that was the first BCS season. Was the team starting quarterback in a win over Florida to end the season, of course, that they needed to win to get to the BCS championship game. This is before an ACC championship game. This is when there were obviously only two teams selected to get to the championship game, and they had already lost earlier in the season to North Carolina State. I remember that game against Torrey Holt and company. They were losing to the Gators by a touchdown at halftime. He brought them back to win 23-12. Scored a touchdown with about 3.5 minutes left against Tennessee. Vols won the national championship. Marcus Outzen primarily a backup in those 4 seasons. But again, because Chris Weinke went down, he took the team all the way to the BCS championship game. So, George, obviously a sad event, a sad day for Seminole Nation.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Rooster, as he's kind of known by his teammates and his friends for his red hair. Extremely fiery guy. As you mentioned, he was kind of a career backup, but I think he started 5 games, including that national championship game. We found out he was sick last year. Everybody's kind of really huddled together to pray up for him, and unfortunately succumbed to his illness. So nothing but thoughts and prayers out there for his immediate family. And then, of course, the Florida State Seminole players that played with him and coaching staff and everything. I have no doubt that along with his family and everything else and loved ones at the pearly gates, that Bobby Bowden was standing there, ready for him to come through. So, again, just a beloved figure. When you talk about family and Florida State, like, you don't have to be a big star or this or that. Just be a part of the family, and he was that. He was part of the family. He's from Fort Walton Beach area, kind of here close to where I'm from. So a lot of folks here in my neck of the woods kind of feeling this one. And when you look at that number there on the screen, 46, we're all within, rather close proximity to that number. So just reminds you to hold your loved ones as close as you possibly can every day and not sweat the petty stuff too much.
James Coleman, everyone, Den Media Group. James, obviously you have a better understanding of this in regards to the football side of this. And we just went through what Marcus Outzen has had to deal with over the last couple of years, and then going back to his run with the team late in 1998 to appear in that very first BCS championship game.
Yeah. Rooster was a competitor. I mean, it was kind of cool. He got thrown into a situation where, he obviously got a win over Florida, so our main rival. And what's crazy is the ball bounces a couple ways. Like, we win that national championship game. The ACC network actually did a really good documentary on the 99 national championship team and why everybody came back, because a lot of the guys could have left following that 98 championship game, but those guys decided to come back to try to win it all with unfinished business. But Rooster was a big, again, just a different era where guys kind of just understood their roles and just wrote it out, did what they needed, did what was necessary, to fight through it. But just again, like I said, different mindset, different era. Some good about it, some bad. But I will say I've met him a couple of times. I was sad by the news, but I did hear, last week I did know that he was in the hospital. It got pretty bad. So yeah, I think whatever it was, it's where your white blood cells kind of attack your organs and different things of that nature. So so unfortunate, and I know he made a lot of people happy in his life, which is all that matters at the end of the day. People cannot die if you remember them. So they only die when you no longer remember who they were and what they meant to you.
Well stated right there, James. And so once again, our condolences and our best wishes and prayers and thoughts go out to Marcus Outzen's family, his friends, everybody close to him. All right, we will move on to the football. And as it pertains to Florida State, it typically revolves around the court proceedings as well. And the latest coming up this week, George, we started to talk about it before we recorded. So I will let you lead off with the latest, because it was just 1 week ago that we talked about Florida State and the court appearance and the mandate to go back, pull things together, present it again here a week later.
Yeah, so we had our court date last Monday, and the judge extended 7 days after he dismissed the initial, version. He gave him 7 days, not counting the weekend. So that gives you right there at 9 or 10 days. So if you're doing your math, today is the day when we should see Florida State's amended filing show up there in the portal. I saw our friend Doug Rohan and a couple of people kind of talking about it on the timeline. If you've kept up with the trial, Judge Cooper, the Honorable Judge Cooper, has said multiple times that, like, when you're going through the state's portal, it takes 2 days sometimes for things to show up. So if they want to expedite the process, they should maybe email it to him or something of that nature so he can get his hands on it before it's actually officially in there. So even though it'll be backdated, it's not like they'll be charged for it being late because it takes time. It just could be that it takes a day or two for it to show up for us all to see. But that's just an interesting point there for people who are refreshing the state website or searching scrib.com and all these things. We'll let you know as soon as we get it. But as of now, it hasn't popped up quite yet. After it does pop up, after it gets in the system, once the judge receives it, that activates a 20-day window for the ACC to respond, to adjust their filing to match what Florida State changes. Now, that's the minimum that they have. That's not counting the fact of if Florida State had decided to adjust their entire case. They go and change every claim and make, serious changes to their filing. Then the ACC will be able to go to the judge and say, look, we need more time. And just to be clear, that rule where the weekends don't count, that's only when you have, I believe, 10 days or 7 days or less that rule is in effect. So that the 20 days that the ACC has from, I guess, today or whenever, the judge decides, that does count the weekends. That's just in Florida State side. So it's a true 20 days. And then as we kind of lay out before we all get into it and discuss, tomorrow is May 2nd and the court date in North Carolina. So we get another court date up there. So all kind of things going on. We're going to be covering that the best we can live tomorrow. James and Chris will have a show. Me and Jen will do our show Friday, kind of recapping all that. But yeah, tons of fun, tons of stuff going on, and just trying to stay up to date as best we can.
James, is there any reason, as we welcome Chris Frazier, Spear Addicts, of course, into the show, James, is there any reason not to believe that this isn't going to go status quo and what we expected to take place a week ago? Just, again, the judge wanting Florida State to present it as the next step in the hearing and not necessarily present its case right now.
Yeah, the judge just basically said, hey, strengthen this up. you have a basically essentially to them without so many words, you have a claim, but it's not strong based upon how you're doing it right now. You need to retweak this. It happened basically what Florida State did is instead of just amending all of the complaints before you got in front of the judge, they got in front of the judge and then amended the complaints. Saw what worked, saw what didn't work, come back, retool it. Because again, all this is doing is this is what's going to lay the groundwork for the official court case. So, I mean, we're still getting into a situation where they're going to have to go to mediation first. So, but yeah, this is just par for the course right now. You just got to go through the motions.
So
Chris?
I misspoke. The court date's actually tomorrow, May 2nd. And also, I'm not sure if I'm clear if you heard that right. There is no court date in Florida, just Florida submitting their paperwork. And then the ACC has 20 days to respond in Florida. The court date is going to be tomorrow in North Carolina.
Thanks for the clarification there. I got that better cleared in my mind, I know. Okay, very good. Chris, great to have you as always, of course, from Spear Addicts. And Chris, I'll hit you with this one, as of course it's my role to try to stay neutral and sometimes play devil's advocate. This could be viewed, I don't necessarily believe it to be so, the first slight misstep by Florida State in all of this. Is that accurate in any way?
I mean, if it wasn't their plan, because I think James kind of alluded to that by saying what he said before they did any amendments, and I think it was kind of the plan to enter it a little bit sloppy to see how was the judge going to proceed it, where was he going to want to push for you to attack the case at the claim, basically, because they were going to come from whichever way that they had to. So it kind of left their field open to play. Like, all right, he don't like us going in this direction. He doesn't like this, but he likes this. So we're going to amend this, and this is going to be the strength of our case. So, I mean, yes, to the naked eye, I guess, yeah, it looks like they made a misstep, and now they're having to redo a bunch of stuff. But if they were already planning on just kind of going at it from, a general state, which is kind of what that lawyer kept saying. I forget what his name is, but he kept saying, we were attacking the situation in a generality. Wanted to know what worked and what didn't. Now that we know what doesn't work, we know where we got to hammer on. So I think it was planned the entire time. But, I mean, you could look at it either way. I'm going to look at it like it was planned because of the conversations that were had and because of how quickly they already knew what they had to do. They were already getting ready for the amendment part of it based off of, the first conversation that was had. So I think that they knew what they were doing all along, and now they've just got a better blueprint of how they can go about winning this, or at least getting the ACC scared enough to want to sit down and talk about actual negotiations. So I think it was planned, but I'm also fine with if it was a mishap, because if it was a mishap, I'm going to say it like this: they took a misstep and didn't have all their eggs, in a row and all the ducks out and all the great stuff. But now they get to be the comeback kid. So however you look at it, I'm gonna be on Florida State side of it. That's for sure. So I'm a little bit biased when it comes to it. But it's it's the hearing part of it. If we were in the trial portion of this, then yeah, I would say we made a huge mistake. But because we're not, this is where you make your mistakes so that you can amend them and correct it. So I'm happy with what Florida State's lawyers did. I'm actually impressed with what the ACC lawyers did on pushing them in the direction kind of their weakness. It kind of let Florida State know this is where your case is because this ain't it. And it's kind of unfair now to me because now you've got this beautiful blueprint for you to run off of what the judge likes and what the ACC doesn't know how to defend too well, because it's a lot of verbiage that was inside of what they were talking about that gave Florida State a lot of heads up on where we can attack this case over and over again, because he's like, why doesn't it plainly say this? Why is it, very vaguely said? Why don't you just come out and say it's this, this, or this? So now that they know all of these things going to be entering the trial, I think they did a really smart thing personally, but we'll see.
Before we move on, I just want to say I think Chris is right. Even if it wasn't like planned the specific way, when they got in there and they realized, all right, this isn't, as Chris is saying, the judge is saying, well, he was trying to lead them down a path like, well, no, we need to look at this. Instead of them playing along and adjusting on the fly and moving forward with that, argument that wasn't perfect, the lawyer was like, no, we're not going to go down that. We'll amend our thing. So, yeah, that definitely probably was the plan from the jump. So, yeah, I agree 100% with what Chris said.
So before we move on, because nothing's happened since that information was given to the court and then the judge stating, okay, regroup, this is what I need, this is what I'm looking for, hit me with it in 7 days. Is there really any reason to have any other thoughts about what's going on here until you guys all lock in on Thursday with this information and the new presentation of it? That's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, basically, it's just, we're still in basically it's just not a big do-over, but it's just that's basically all it is, man. Just fill it out, redo it, come back, let's see where we get to. But the biggest thing in all of this, the only thing the judge did say is that I'm going to make you guys go, which is not make, it's just part of what happens in the state of Florida when you do a civil suit, is you have to go to mediation. So that's really where they're lining up next, is to go into that. And again, that's why he gave him 120 days to be able to do that. That's more than enough time for everybody to be able to get the subpoenas and get people to be able to, what do you not dissertation, damn it, where they basically come in and interview you, all of those different things. So that's which is fun, but that's really where this is headed down towards. But I do know this: whenever it does go to trial, this judge ain't finna have a month-long trial. It's about to be sped up because, again, it's a race to see who can finish first.
All right, folks, like button, and please subscribe here at the Voice of College Football, and we will be dropping the links to the Renegade Report, Den Media Group, Spear Addicts. They will be in the chat here soon. We will drop them right there to make it extra easy for you to find these guys and what they've got going. And this is an important week to get there, as George just outlined, and everybody else as we move through the week. And the next presentation of the information for the court hearing on, not the court hearing, but again, the submission of the case presentation, I guess you could say, or the information on Thursday. Before we get to our next topic, Michael, appreciate you being here. All right, here we go. Michael with the super chat says James Coleman was a dog at Florida State back in the day. Is that true, James?
I was okay. I was pretty decent. I was decent enough for the old man to remember who I was. So
excellent stuff. Absolutely. Hey, if you can suit up for Florida State and get on the field, be a starter,
it ain't easy. I can tell you that much. And it was a lot of good stuff. I actually had a lot of good questions. This is a little app that lets people ask you questions anonymously. Today, last couple of days, they've been hitting me with some really good FSU related questions. So I haven't been bored. So, it's cool for that.
Well, here's another one, James, for you, talking about questions. Thank you so much, Michael. What was your favorite memory at Florida State?
Really, I talk about the Miami touchdown. My favorite touchdown was we scored in the Gator Bowl, which is ironic because I'm the first and only person who's ever been on the Gator Bowl committee that scored a touchdown in the game. I think I might be the only guy who's ever played in the Gator Bowl. But I go with North Carolina State, 2003 double overtime going up against Phillip Rivers. I played every offensive snap in the double overtime game and I broke my hand on the first play of the game. So, and I knew I was going to have shoulder surgery when the season was over. So, that was fun. It was crazy. I got video. Coach Bowden kind of just came up to me. I'm laying on the ground. I literally passed out. Like the touchdown that we scored to seal the game, I straight up told him in the huddle, I said, hey, I ain't got nothing else after this. So honestly, dead serious. If we don't, we would have been, if Leon would have got tackled inside of the 5, we'd have literally had to go 5 wide receivers or something like that. Cause I wasn't going back in. I literally just threw my whole body into the will linebacker and then just fell. I blasted him, but if he'd have given any resistance, he probably would have won that battle. But I literally just flung my whole body into him, and then they had to come get me off of the ground. They were like, "The game's over. We won." I'm like, "Oh God, thank you." It's I had nothing else. And then I think they kind of carried me into the locker room, man. I was on the floor, passed out. It was just crazy. Coach Body came over and was just like, "That was a good game. Good game, Coleman. You did it." And I'm like, "Shoot." Had I think 13. What they call decleters. So I put 13 people on their ass, basically, which is a hell of an accomplishment. Going up against Mario Williams and Manny Lawson. That defensive line was all 4 of those D linemen ended up being first round draft picks.
Yeah, they could bring it. And that must have been a tough luck year for NC State because you've told part of that story before, but maybe not with that kind of detail. So I appreciate that. But NC State also lost to double overtime in Columbus against Ohio State the same year. So they were very close to being high in the rankings. So what was your playing weight?
That game was 245. I was 240. My best weight was 255. I got up to 265 my senior year. And when I was in New Orleans, I was 270. But I liked being 245 between 245 and 255 was my favorite. I was sexy as hell then. That's what I like that. I like that weight. But yeah, Phillip Rivers, it's every time we scored, next thing you know, Phillip Rivers just did some magic, man. That was a bad man, dog. Phillip Rivers
was he talking in college like he does in
he's talking. He was talking to our guys. They had a running back. Everybody used to talk about T.A. McClendon. T.A. McClendon was really good. Yeah. Everybody talked about Maurice Claret, right? But T.A. was in the same class as me, and T.A. was nuts, man. It was crazy how good T.A. was. He was a 1,000-yard back, I believe, his freshman year. I wonder what happened. It just disappeared. But T.A. was really, really good.
Yeah, remember him well. I do. Michael Davis back with us. Appreciate that. Michael says this for Falconer X and his Broke program, all love. So the backstory there is Falconer X is a Miami fan, joins us on the Miami channel. And Michael, you are free and welcome and encouraged to become the Falconer X of this show because Falconer X throws up the 305s constantly with the super chat. It's just one after another, after another, after another. So what's the area code there in Tallahassee?
850, but I think we could go with 414 maybe.
They got a new one. They got a new one coming. I don't like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a new area. But what's funny is, so in my life, the entire Panhandle was 904. So from Pensacola all the way to Jacksonville was 904. And then I believe I was in high school when they changed it to 850.
Well, we've always been 850, but it may have been in Tallahassee.
But you got real too, George. You're a little younger than me.
I'm good with the
850s. Is true. I'm only 33, so
we can.
But it might have been. But you might be right. It might have I know we shifted from 904. Or we had 904, but we shifted. We shifted all of that off.
Remember the interstate? That's what used to kill me because the interstate, where I live in Pensacola, was exit 10. But then all the way in Tallahassee, it would just be exit 30 or something. And they changed that shit when we were kids. All of a sudden now I'm exit 31. It goes by the mile markers. They're always changing something up.
Well, we are good with 850 being the super chat standard there. We can do that. All right, Michael coming in with this one. We appreciate it, Michael. What's y'all perspective on the new Guardian caps?
I don't see anybody doing that in the I don't see anybody doing that in the NFL unless somebody's paying them. Like it actually, there's one way to make NFL safe, to make the leading with the head policies and make the NFL safer, but nobody's going to do it. You can go rugby style, take helmets out of the game, and you'll see less head injuries. Believe it or not.
What they're talking about using the Guardian caps like in the games or something.
Yeah, they'll put it in. It's not the impact. It's what happened. Like you have to, or have helmets that kind of like give way when you hit. Like it kind of so it disperses the pressure. Like the Guardian cap is like, just imagine in baseball, like they put a cushion on there, and like you still get hit in the head with a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. It's not gonna tickle, like it's gonna still hurt, but you know.
Well, pain is like a warning that God gives you that something's wrong. So the thing with putting more and more padding on your head, so where when you get that crazily whiplash or your head stops in an instant, it doesn't hurt, but your brain is still going to hit the side of your skull. That's the issue. So that's the argument with taking the helmets off, going rugby style, because people are going to make business decisions. You know, you're not going to be so likely to just close your eyes and drop your head in there, James Harrison style. Or was it James Harrison? Excuse me. I'm not going to besmirch anybody's name. Woodley, somebody in the NFL that you should just destroy Browns receivers, like put them in the hospital.
Oh,
but
nah, I know who you're talking about. That's the guy they called dirty, but it was just big hits. But yeah,
the Guardian cap.
Who am I thinking of? The
Troy Polamalu?
He was a Steeler. No. He was a Steeler.
It was one of those guys.
Why y'all think
Joey Porter? Anyway, go to it, Chris.
The Guardian cap isn't anything besides for practice, so the helmets don't get scratched up.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them using it in games.
Vontez Burfict is who you're talking about.
Yes, well, that was the Bengals guy. They got him. Bengals. They got his ass too. Burfict. Woo! He used to murder them Browns.
No, it was but Bengals player.
So, Chris, we'll stay with you here as we transition to the transfer portal, because I got to think Florida State fans are going through withdrawal because the transfer portal has been a good thing for this program, more so than I would argue any program in the country in terms of top-end talent, but got off to a late start with 1 week. And also, people have to realize there is not the kind of talent in the transfer portal here in the spring that there was in December. There's a few gems out there, and most of them have been snatched up. But can we expect any meaningful dividends for Florida State in the transfer portal, Chris?
I'm going to say yes, just based off of the defensive tackle that we've offered. We've also offered a one wide receiver, and we've also offered, I don't know if we've offered him, but we've had the conversation with a particular DB from Alabama. We don't necessarily need another DB, but these are kind of the ones that you don't tell no to. There's also an offensive tackle that is extremely interested in coming to Florida State. I don't know who's released that yet. But I know that for a fact that we talked to him today as far as Florida State. When I say we, I think there's 3 that they'll take, and I think it's going to be on a difference because we're still 3 over on our scholarship right now. So if we add 3 more, we'll be 6 over. So there's going to be some NIL things that take place to replace scholarships from what I've been told. I don't know any of that to be factual yet. That's just what I've been told from the outside. But I do believe that there's 3 of them that if they want to come to Florida State, then you don't tell them no, and then you figure it out. I'm also starting to wonder, even though we listened to the basic, the punishment that the NCAA gave us as far as scholarships and not being able to talk to kids in the portal for the first week. I think even though we've listened to those, I think due to the way that the lawsuit's going against the NCAA continue to listen to those punishments, it seems like we're starting to say the hell with that almost. I don't want to put any, thoughts out there or words in the Florida State's mouth, but It's seriously because of the way that lawsuit's going, starting to look like Florida State's not going to abide by any of those punishments. It's going to, I don't know if it goes away, but I just think Florida State's going to start operating as if they don't care. So we'll see.
Yeah, the teeth of the NCAA has pretty much been, kicked out. So yeah, Florida State may go down in history as the last school to get its hand slapped by the NCAA, and that might be it, because man, they are losing in a bad way, and all power and authorities leaving them at this point. James, you have any thought about anyone in the portal or any direction in which this program needs to go?
I mean, it's like Chris said. I mean, it really just depends upon how strong and how much money we have left over in the NIL. You did lose a couple key pieces, but I mean, the beautiful thing about Tallahassee is that it isn't Miami. It isn't Jacksonville. It's relatively cheap. A scholarship is about, if you're on full scholarship outside of your academics and everything else, you're getting about $36,000, like $3,000 a month in your living allowance. So what you do is you just pay for that, and then just put those guys, have them pay for their own school. It's not that expensive for some of our lower tier players if we needed to remove them from scholarship. Or you could relatively give somebody $100,000 and say, hey, you got to just pay your own way though. But you're still a member, you're still a part of the team. But I think that D tackle we're very interested in. Michigan just offered him. But, hopefully we get him, and that gives us, he's got 2 years to play. We do need a little bit of depth there. But outside of that, people want more wide receivers. I get it, but there isn't a Keon Coleman in that transfer portal. Obviously you can have an embarrassment of riches at DB. If you find another linebacker, that's great. We see the young man Cam, who had committed to North Carolina State, decommitted. I know we flirted with him, but I think, and I've always said this, I don't think Florida State's in the market to just sign anybody. It has to be a really good fit, and it has to make sense, because I really believe our roster is really good, and they have faith in the roster. I do believe. And then I thought about it based upon spring. Spring, we had 5 D tackles that were able to go. No, actually, technically 4, because Farmer wasn't able to go. But you bring in D.D. Holmes and you bring Denaz White, that are 2 freshmen that will be coming in. And you really need 8 so that you can have 4 getting quality 1s and 2s reps. The other ones are giving you a good look on the scout team, and guys are kind of playing around best of that. So, that's really just what it comes down to. Guys want to play in the portal. Guys want to be loved. There are some people who do have more spots than we do. So we'll see where it goes. But I think Florida State's roster right now is pretty primed to make another run.
And real
Anything
quick
on that, George?
Yeah, I
George.
agree with both of those guys. When it comes to the scholarship reductions, with Moody announcing another lawsuit, this time on behalf of Florida and Florida State, with respect to these NIL violations in the 2 situations, I have to think that maybe Florida State kind of kicks the can down the road on those 5 scholarships, because they have 2 years to fulfill that. So hopefully they never have to fulfill that. Hopefully they don't have to worry about it. But as Chris and James have said, the Battle's End is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, and most efficient kind of NIL collectives out there. It's a beautiful thing. And also another piece of legislation or litigation that's in effect is a suit against the NCAA to just have these schools pay them like $20 million a year at these D1s. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. I think Florida State's just going to be going to land on top of their feet in a better situation than before. When it comes to possibly adding some players, I agree with Chris. I really think we bring in a defensive tackle at the end of the day. Like James was saying, if you get a wide receiver, to me, you don't just bring in, and that's one thing Norvell does not do. He does not bring in bodies. He will not bring in somebody if he doesn't think they can truly become a part of the program and compete. But as far as wide receiver, I think you don't grab somebody unless they can complete for some serious snaps this year. This year, that's the important thing. But I just want to highlight, this is not some new portal class. This is a new period of the portal. But while we're on to recruiting 2025 high school kids, this is the same portal class. This is the same group. We just got all of ours on early signing day. That's the difference. When you put up the top 10 portal cats around the country, you look at the classes, Florida State's still number 4 on 3, I believe, number 5 on 247. Miami, under all their hope, they're still 19 on 3, number 10 on 247. So, like, I get everybody wants the excitement. And I thought we were going to lose 10 cats because of the scholarship reductions and wanting to bring guys in, possibly off of scholarship and things like that. But spring has come and gone. We're learning more about the possible lawsuits against the NCAA and maybe kicking that can down the road. And it looks like, I don't know, maybe we lose a couple of people, more people, maybe we don't. But yeah, I don't see a ton of people get that defensive tackle in there for sure. And if a wide receiver or a linebacker pops up there that you think can come compete for a starting job, get him in here. As far as offensive tackle, that's one of those positions where if it's available, you can get a guy that can come in at any point in time to be part of your 2 deep at offensive tackle. You bring that sucker in. So, yeah, I hope we get that news that Chris alluded to there sooner than later for sure.
Mike, we appreciate Michael Davis, another super chat coming in here. How about we make this the area code from now on? Pain is a reaction. You're growing, a.k.a. David Goggins. Well,
yeah, well, maybe that tumor in your brain's growing every time it hits the side of it.
Yeah,
that is true. No pain, no gain.
There is some truth to that, but not in every case. Michael coming back with this one. Just tell me, Barrow isn't going to Miami. He would be the Michigan State defensive lineman, correct?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that he's visiting. I know that he is visiting. So let's transition to high school recruiting. Chris, do you have anything in that category?
June 21st to the 23rd is going to be where everybody else gets so excited in small spurts throughout the spring and summer because people bring new recruits in and they verbally commit, and kind of like what USC's been doing here for the past couple of months. Florida State showed all of us last year when they do this. When do the fireworks happen? It's the last week of June and the first 10 days of July. And usually on July 4th, there are some serious fireworks going off. We have got, I think, 5 or 6 of the top offensive line recruits coming in from June 21st to June 23rd. Byron Lewis is coming back between June 21st and the 23rd. You've got the top safety coming in June 21st to 23rd. You got 3 of the top wide receivers coming in from the 21st to the 23rd. Trammell, if I'm not mistaken, is coming in from the 21st to the 23rd. There's going to be a huge recruiting weekend, obviously June 21st to the 23rd. So I anticipate that Florida State fans will be extremely excited that last week of June and the first 10 days of July. There will be a lot of verbal commits. Mike does this on purpose. Mike wants all of them to get all of the official visits out of the way, visit everybody that you want to visit, and he makes sure that he gets them on that last weekend. That's the last weekend that you can visit. So we make sure that we get their last official visit. Most of it is before they have a date that's set when they are going to verbally commit somewhere. We'll have over 35 kids from what I've understood, and that number will probably grow from here until then. But I do know that there are 35 that have already set their official visits for the 21st to the 23rd of June. I mean, it'll be a big weekend. Mark, you had made a statement that Florida State may be the last team that was punished by the NCAA. We're also, just for history buffs, so people that care, we're also the last team that ever won a BCS national championship. So might as well take this one too.
Yeah.
Good thought there. Anything else, guys, on the recruiting front? James, George?
No, I
James
just
Bond.
got to tell our fans to just stop scaring off our commits.
Thank
Chill
you.
out.
Yeah, I can read off that offensive line thing real quick if people want to know the kind of offensive lineman where they're actually after and that we have for an official real quick if I can get to it. But no, I would just tell people, just take a deep breath. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet. Don't worry so much about kind of what looks cool and the high school recruiting rankings and things like that. It's a brand new era when it comes to NIL, retainment, the portal, all these things. What Mike Norvell's doing, it really is beautiful. And each year they kind of sharpen the roster. It gets better and better. I spoke to it earlier. When you look at like the top 12, top 11 guys, when you separate all the portal exits and the portal entries, Florida State, the top 11 guys are all guys that came in. They really are just, year by year improving the heck out of this roster. And as far as the official visitors, I don't know if all of these come on the weekend of June 21st through the 23rd, but I know a lot of them do, if not most of them. 5-star number 2 offensive tackle Ty Haywood, 5-star number 1 inside offensive lineman who's already committed Solomon Thomas, 5-star number 5 offensive tackle Josh Petty, 4-star number 6 inside O-line Cortez Smith, 4-star number 7 inside O-line Peyton Joseph, who was projected, if not committed, by a couple of different people on 3 and 247. Zyar Addison, number 22 offensive tackle, who we've been after for a long time, put a lot of time into that one. Dontrell Glover, a 4-star interior offensive lineman, who's a lot of time spent there. Also Max Buchanan, another 4-star interior offensive lineman who I believe somebody has a crystal ball in, and also another top offensive tackle, Rowan Burns. So I've got a mind to think we get 3 or 4 guys off of that list. And if we do, those predictions out there for what this offensive line can be like, and maybe that bet that Chris has got out there for that top 3 offensive line class will come to fruition.
Well, just so everybody knows, the gentleman that I have the bet with changed it to the top 5. Don't know why I would have stuck to the top 3, but he said he wanted to be the top 5. Anyways, yes, all of those on that list are going to be here June 21st through the 23rd. Not in between, like we don't have some showing up on the 22nd, some showing up on the 23rd. They all show up on the 20th, the night before the 21st. Their first actual contact with Coach Norvell, Coach Atkins, and so on will be on the 21st of that morning. So, yes, all of that list that you just named off, they will be here on the 21st. There's also 2 defensive tackles. One's the number 1 defensive tackle in this class. The other one's the 13th defensive tackle in this class. And then you've got 3 edge players. They're in the top 100. I know that much. I don't know exactly where they're ranked as far as their position goes, but I know they're in the top 100 players. They will also be there on the 21st. You've got, I don't know that other quarterback for 2025 that we're really high on. I don't remember his name. Yeah, he's supposed to be there on the 21st as well. You got the other running back outside of Byron. I can't remember that young man's name either. We caught on him kind of late, but
Chroma.
he's coming. Which one?
Usman Chroma.
Yeah, he'll be there on the 21st to the 23rd as well. So it's going to be a big recruiting weekend for Florida State, June 21st. And I probably should have just said everybody's name. Unfortunately, I'm traveling at the moment, don't have all of that sitting right in front of me. But I can remember what I can remember. The bad thing is, and y'all can ask James this, 90% of the kids that I talk to, I don't know them by their real name. Just like I've been calling Hilton Drake Stubbs the whole time. I never do Hilton until James brought it up, and James found out, I guess, some similar way that I did.
I thought his name was Drake. I've been coaching him for over a year. I was like, everybody's asking me. I call him Hilton when I'm mad now. When he's not doing something good. I'm like, Hilton, that ain't going to work. When you make plays, I call you Drake.
So it's going to be a fun weekend, June 21st to the 23rd. And then July, I would anticipate on July 4th, the majority of the 2025 class will be committed by July 4th, July 5th. There's going to be a lot of verbal commits that come across that 10-day period. So I think Mike showed us that last year where everybody was getting frustrated with the early points of the class, and we had 11 of them commit from June 23rd all the way until July the 9th was the last one that committed. We had 11 of them do it within that span of time. So everybody got their day, pretty much. So that's kind of similar to how Mike wants to do it because he wants it. I mean, we talked to Trammell about this. It was one of the questions that I got to ask him. Because James was doing so good, I just didn't want to intervene 90% of the time. But when I did, I asked Trammell, I said, I'm not saying that Coach Norvell, pushes y'all to do this, but he, is perfectly fine with you taking visits elsewhere because he wants to make sure you want to be here. So get all of it out of your system. And Trammell went into a lot more depth of it than what I said, and I was very happy to hear because there was multiple kids I've done Q&As with that had said he doesn't tell us not to go. He's not like, oh, make sure you go to Alabama and check him out. But he does ask, are you planning on visiting, other schools and how many? He doesn't want to know where. He just wants to know how many you're planning on going to, unofficial and official. Most of the time they give him the answer. He's like, well, make sure that you get those done. And I want you back here on June 21st to the 23rd. And then that's how he gets them. He gets them to commit to that date, knowing that that's the last time that they can actually visit a school until the dead period's over, which is, I don't know the exact date this time because they change it every year, but it's important for him to get that last summer visit from them. So it all is very strategic. I don't know if y'all already say something about Rooster passing away?
We did. So certainly you've got the floor if you want to add anything.
The only thing that I want to add is I reached out to his son that lost. Obviously, it's his father. I reached out to him. He was extremely warmed by all the Florida State people that had written him and gave their condolences and all of that stuff. So shout out to the family for, still taking people's messages and responding on their father's behalf, because that's not easy to do. It's not easy to still keep that, mindset. A lot of times people, they grieve in a certain way, and that's usually alone. So, but they really appreciate all of the love. They don't want it to slow down. As many people want to say something about Rooster, by far, please do it. They love the fact that he got the nickname Rooster. His dad started going by it after being in college. It meant a lot to him for getting that. I forget who gave him the actual nickname, but they did tell me who it was, and I can't remember who it was. But anyway, they're embracing all of the people. They really appreciate everybody's love and support that's getting pushed out to them. They really appreciated the prayers to the family. I think Florida State's going to do some type of tribute to him. I forget what exactly the conversation was. I know that's not been released because it just happened, but talking to the family and hearing some stuff from Florida State as well. Also want to wish Boucher, which is Corey Fuller, happy birthday. Today was his birthday. We have a lot of birthdays in this month, the month of May. So everybody get ready for it because you're going to see a lot of Florida State birthday stuff going on. But definitely the Boucher. If people don't know, well, you should know who Corey Fuller is. But if you don't, he's got some of the greatest 1-minute videos that you'll ever watch. If you're feeling some type of way, I don't know what it is about his speeches. They take 60 seconds. And I know that that's not easy to do. I've been speaking for over 60 seconds now and can't get everything out that I want to. So he does a really good job at that. A lot of the young people at Florida State look at him as a older brother figure, even though he's old enough to be their dad. I make fun of that on his behalf. But they do look at him as a huge support system at Florida State. Joshua Farmer and Daryl Jackson speak so highly of him that it's kind of it's impressive just because he's got that type of effect on these young men. And he doesn't get near I don't think he wants it, but he doesn't get near the glory or praise or whatever you want to call it. He doesn't get enough of it for how he intervenes with these young men and makes sure that they're not just prospering as football players, but as how they're doing as young men. So I just wanted to give Boucher a huge shout out.
Well, with all due respect to everyone who has a birthday on this day, May 1st, in my household, my daughter's birthday is first and foremost because it is today, May 1st. And thanks to everyone who acknowledged that on Twitter and Facebook and otherwise. Let me make a quick programming note because Florida State fans, you'll want to be looking out for my all-time program ranking. So I was working on these numbers just prior to the show. And at the Voice of College Football, we just don't spit into the wind when we do program rankings. It's not just, oh, yeah, Alabama's about 1, then we'll go with Ohio. No. We're going through winning percentage. We're going through bowl appearances, major bowl wins. We're going through AP rankings. We're going through consensus All-Americans. We're going through Heisman trophies. We're going through every award at every position. We go through NFL draft selections, first round selections, national championships, and conference championships. And to top that off, folks, we just don't flat out say, oh, conference championships, they've got 20, they've got 18, they've got whatever. You guys all know, when did Florida State join the ACC? 1992, and once the ACC formed, 1953. So it is fair to compare the number of ACC championships. Even starting in 1992, Florida State's still dominant in all-time ACC championships, but that dominance should be even emphasized. So we go with the percentage of conference championships that you earn during the time that you're in the conference. So be looking out for our all-time program rankings, because we take all those numbers and then we add our brain to it and we put it into context, and we'll be delivering those over the next week or so. All right.
I got a bounce,
sure.
Mark. It was good rapping with you. I got a lacrosse state playoffs game I got to run to.
Thanks, James. Appreciate you being here, making time for us. And before we,
you see my lacrosse catch?
That was well done there. That was good form from what I know about.
Right by your head, right there.
Like 0, but looked good. It looked good. So let's tee up, George, on this, and Chris, you can chime in. Of course, this is taken from, this information's all over the place, but I'll give due credit to War Chant, because this is where I'm pulling this up. We've got win totals coming down from DraftKings. Florida, I'm guessing Billy Napier's not going to see all those games played if they're at 4.5, because that's not going to get it done. That schedule is brutal. Miami sitting at 9, Clemson 9.5, and Florida State at 9.5. And I'll make this one point, George, before you dive in on this, is what was interesting to me when the previous win totals were released, and I forget, that might have been FanDuel. Florida State, Miami, and Clemson were all 9.5, but also the odds tell you a lot, because they may say 9.5, but they're really wanting to push the public betting in one direction. So they'll really swing it in one direction. But all three of those schools, according to FanDuel's at least, the odds were almost equal. So they think it's going to be a heck of a race in the ACC.
Yeah, there's a lot of perception out there, because of course Miami beat Clemson this year, and when you look on paper at the recruiting rankings, Miami has a pretty good roster. We won't get into my opinion. We ain't got enough time on that, but yeah, it really does. When you look at Miami's schedule, it's pretty favorable. So I could definitely see one of those 3 schools or 2 of those 3 schools making it to the ACC championship. But I could also see Miami just stubbing their toe in another school like an NC State or somebody sneaking their way in it. I guess I'll just believe it when I see it when it comes to that.
There you go.
As far as Florida, that stinks. I mean, they were at 5.5 wins. Now they're down at 4.5. That's pretty tough. Like I'm curious what Chris thinks, but like I'm leaning more and more towards Florida winning that week 1 game over Miami, and you see the difference there, and that win total is basically schedule, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest with everybody. I think we just did an entire breakdown of the big 3 on Monday's show. James, Chip, and myself on Spear Addicts, and a lot of people. If you go look at what I dropped last year and I dropped the year before that, and I put out my win predictions, I give it a ceiling and floor. But we broke it down on why I came up with what I came up with. Chip does have Miami going 10-2, and I can see that happening. It's just they would have to beat Florida that first game for them to get that 10th win, in my eyes, and also them not making that slip-up game that they do every year. I'm just doing that based off of the past 22 years. It's not that I'm trying to troll Miami. I don't like Miami at all. The University of Moral Gables is not somewhere that I care for, but I will not be dishonest. They have a very good roster. I've never questioned does Miami have talent. That's never been a question. Miami always has talent. The issue that they have right now is game day coaching. I don't even think it's an issue with how they prepare. I don't think it's a problem with their game plan. I think it's once they.
Oh,
But when they get into situational football, their coaches make grand mistakes. I'm not going to keep bringing up not taking a knee. It's just the facts of the past 22 years since you have entered the ACC conference. You joined in 2004 with Virginia Tech. So in the past 20 years, you have yet to win an ACC title. You have won the Coastal once, which was in 2017, and then you got blown out by Clemson. So I'm not picking on Miami. I am just basing it off of the facts of the past 20 years in the ACC and the past 22 years since you've had one 10-win season in 22 years. So I have a hard time believing you're just going to bust through the double digit wins this year, based off of you added a quarterback that was brand new to the situation, whereas you had Tyler Van Dyke the previous year. You were telling us the following year, which was last year, that he was going to be the top Heisman contender. And I'm going to be honest with people. Tyler Van Dyke was not Miami's problem. They can say it all that they want, but that's the problem. It's not. Your coaching staff is the issue. You ran the same 8 passing plays for the majority of the year. And all you did was flip the sides, like if they went in or cut out. So that is not on a kid because they have no options. He's not fast enough to take off running, blah, blah, blah. Cam Ward is definitely a more athletic quarterback. He will get them out of jams, but there's only so many jams that you can ask of a quarterback to get out of. So I've got them going 8-4. So it's below what they've got up here as far as the projections go. And poor Florida. I don't think that they're going to fire Billy Napier this year, no matter what he goes, even if he goes 0-12. The reason I say that's because his buyout's $30 million. And what coach is going to want to come in for that exact same schedule the following season? Like, that's setting your brand new head coach up for failure. And I don't know many of them that will take that on. So I think you get him this year and next year, and maybe midway through the year they fire him, and then they have an interim head coach. As soon as the season's over, they go hire Lane Kiffin. That's I'm telling y'all, that's what they've been geared for some time. I think I predicted them to go 5 at best. 6-6 was the best that they could do as their ceiling. 2 wins is their floor. So somewhere in between 2 and 5 wins is what I projected for Florida. I think UCF, where James and Chip thought UCF would not beat them, I think UCF comes in and pounds away at the Gators, to be honest. But we'll see. So that's my ideas or my outlook on what the Big Three is going to do this season.
Well, Chris, I got to say that you're being kind in saying that Miami's got a slip up every year. They basically have a month of slip ups. They've got 3 or 4 of them. I just went through, and not that this is going to shock anyone, they've lost 8 games since 2020, or since Manny Diaz took over 2019. 8 games to teams with losing records. So that doesn't even include a lot of pretty marginal 7-6 teams that they've lost to as well.
I want to be clear. Like, I don't think they're bereft of talent. I think Chris hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, they're talented, but they were talented last year and the year before. People are wanting to act like all of a sudden this year Miami is just twice as talented, and now they're going to make a title run and stuff. Like, no, they're going to be talented, more talented than all that maybe 3 teams they play all year. But what Chris and Mark just alluded to, they're going to lose to somebody, and after that, you're going to get a month of F-ups. But maybe not. Maybe he's got the culture going, and even after they lose to somebody, they can keep it together. But like I said earlier, I'll believe it when I see it.
We will definitely continue this conversation through the summer in regards to the Big Three in state or the Big Four, if you want to include UCF. We appreciate Chris being here from Sphere Addicts, Den Media Group with James, George with the Renegade Report. George, when is the next time you're live?
We are live Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be going over the amended filing from Florida State and, of course, the court date in North Carolina tomorrow. Then we're going to have Doug Rohan, I believe, with us for that one, for our happy hour Law and Order segment. Who knows, maybe somebody else, maybe Chris or James will join us, something fun like that. And then Sunday, we don't have a time, but yeah, Friday at 7 Eastern, and then we'll see everybody Sunday.
And Chris, just to make sure we're signing off, when is the next time you're live?
So we go live tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. I was going to change it to 7, but too many fans said they've gotten used to 8 p.m., so I'm going to stick to 8 p.m. Mondays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We will be live, and we will go over Florida State in the most deep way that I possibly can every time. I've got interviews that were recorded over the spring game weekend that will be dropping. I'm also a partnership with a pretty large media group that will be dropping soon. So it's all getting fun.
Good stuff. George, Chris, thank you guys for making this happen. Without you, we don't have a show. So thank you for all that you do. And we will see you on Spear Addicts and the Renegade Report. See everybody back here next Wednesday at 6.